You check your portfolio, and the number is red. Not a little red, a lot of red. Your stomach drops, your palms go slightly damp, and before your brain has even finished processing what you're looking at, your finger is already moving toward the sell button. You don't decide to sell, it just happens. And that's the part nobody talks about. Because here's the thing. The investors who make the most money over a lifetime are not the smartest people in the room. They are not the ones with the best data, or the fastest internet connection, or the most sophisticated models. They are, almost always, the ones who did the least, the ones who resisted the exact impulse you just felt. And the reason you felt it, the reason almost every human on Earth feels it, goes back a lot further than the stock market. It goes back to a world where doing nothing could get you killed. Your brain is not a financial instrument. It was never designed to evaluate risk-adjusted returns or calculate a 10-year compound growth rate. It was designed to keep a soft, slow, clawless primate alive on a savanna full of things that wanted to eat it. And it was very, very good at that job. The problem is that job ended roughly 10,000 years ago. The hardware is still running. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio spent decades studying patients with damage to a specific region of the brain called the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. These patients could reason perfectly. They understood numbers. They could analyze scenarios logically, but they couldn't make decisions. Because the part of the brain that generates gut feelings, the part that makes a choice feel right or wrong before conscious reasoning even starts, was offline. Damasio called this the somatic marker hypothesis, the idea that your emotions are not the enemy of good decisions. They are, in most contexts, the engine of them. The problem is that engine was calibrated for a different world. In that world, loss meant something immediate and physical. You lost a kill, you lost shelter, you lost a member of your group. And every one of those losses had to be treated as a potential threat to survival. So your brain evolved in a symmetry, a negativity bias so strong that psychologists estimate a loss feels roughly twice as painful as an equivalent gain feels good. You find $20, you feel a small lift. You lose $20, it ruins your afternoon. That asymmetry kept your ancestors alive. It keeps you terrible at investing. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky formalized this in the 1970s through what they called prospect theory. They ran experiment after experiment, showing that humans do not evaluate outcomes by their actual value. They evaluate them relative to a reference point, usually where they started, and they weight losses far more heavily than gains. This is not a personality flaw. It is not a lack of discipline. It is the operating system of the human mind, and it predicts with unsettling accuracy exactly what you will do when your portfolio turns red. You will sell. Not because selling is rational, but because holding feels like doing nothing, and doing nothing in the face of a threat is the one behavior your brain spent millions of years trying to stamp out. Think about what the savanna demanded of your ancestors. You saw a rustle in the tall grass. You had a fraction of a second. The ones who paused to gather more information before reacting were not the ones who passed their genes forward. The ones who moved, who fled, who acted, who did something, those were the survivors. Your nervous system inherited their reflexes, speed over accuracy, action over analysis, movement over stillness. Now put that same nervous system in front of a screen showing a line graph trending downward. The rustle in the grass is back, and your body responds exactly the same way it always has. Cortisol rises, heart rate increases, attention narrows, the future collapses, and the only thing that exists is right now, this red number, this perceived threat. And the solution your brain offers you is the only solution it knows. Get out. Move. Do something. Selling is just running. It is the exact same behavior, dressed in a different costume. What makes this even harder is that the market occasionally rewards panic. Sometimes you sell and the stock keeps falling and you feel like a genius. Your brain logs that. It files it under evidence that your instincts were right. Behavioral economists call this the intermittent reinforcement trap, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. When a behavior is rewarded unpredictably, the brain clings to it harder than if it were rewarded every time. You don't need to be right often. You just need to be right once at the right moment, and your brain will spend years chasing that feeling again. Brad Barber and Terence O'Dean at UC Davis studied the trading behavior of over 66,000 households over a 7-year period. What they found was striking. The more frequently people traded, the worse their returns were. The most active traders underperformed the market by more than 6% annually. The investors who traded the least came closest to capturing what the market actually offered. The conclusion was not subtle. For most people, the best investing strategy is the one that involves the least investing behavior. But knowing that doesn't help you in the moment, because in the moment, you are not a rational actor with a 10-year time horizon. You are a primate who just saw something move in the grass. There's a concept in psychology called the effect heuristic, described by Paul Slovic at the University of Oregon. When you experience a strong emotion, fear, excitement, disgust, your brain uses that emotion as information. If something feels bad, your brain concludes it is bad. If something feels dangerous, it concludes the situation is dangerous. The feeling arrives first, the reasoning comes after, and almost always confirms the feeling rather than challenging it. This is why you can know, intellectually, that markets recover. You can have read every book. You can have seen the charts showing that every single major crash in market history was eventually followed by new highs. You can know all of that and still feel in your body that this time is different, that this time you should get out. Because your feelings are not receiving the same information your frontal lobe is. They are receiving older information, faster information, and they are speaking louder. Here's what the data says. If you missed just the 10 best trading days in the S&P 500 over the last 20 years, your total return was cut by more than half. 10 days, out of roughly 5,000 trading days. And the best days are almost always clustered directly around the worst days. Because the market's biggest recoveries happen at the exact moment fear is at its peak, the moment you are most likely to be in cash, the moment you already sold. This is not bad luck. This is the math of a system that punishes panic with a precision that almost seems designed. And yet, you know all of this. You may have known it before you started reading. It doesn't fully help because the problem isn't a knowledge gap. It's a biological one. So what do you do with a brain that is wired to protect you from things that no longer exist? The same thing every endurance sport teaches you. You do not fight the sensation. You plan around it. You automate what you can. You remove yourself from the decision at the moment the decision feels most urgent. You write down your strategy before the market moves, when your cortisol is low and your prefrontal cortex is fully online, and you commit to it in advance. Not because you'll feel calm when things go red. You won't. But because a decision made in advance is harder to undo than one you're making for the first time with shaking hands. The investors who win are not the ones who feel less fear. They feel the same fear you do. They just built systems that make acting on that fear slightly harder than not acting on it. They added friction between the feeling and the behavior. And that friction, that tiny delay, is worth more than any stock tip, any analyst report, any clever strategy. Tonight, when you check your portfolio and the number is red, your brain will do what it always does. It will tell you to move. It will make staying feel like weakness and selling feel like control. It will dress up a very old reflex in very modern language. And somewhere in the back of your mind, beneath all the noise, you will know that the thing asking you to run has never once seen a stock chart. It has only ever seen the grass. Thank you for watching Logje Teaches. I hope you learned something valuable from today's video. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Stay tuned for more investing tips and educational content coming soon. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and invest wisely. See you in the next video.